My family demanded I sell my house to bail out my sister. When I refused, they trashed it, thinking it was mine, and got arrested. 3 months ago, I saw my parents throw a baseball bat across a stranger's living room, convinced they were ruining my life. It turned out they were giving me the best gift I never realized I needed: freedom from those who were meant to love me the most. I'm Emily, and I'd want to tell you about the day I realized that sometimes the most poisonous individuals in your life share your DNA. It all began with $150,000 and a family meal that changed everything forever. But to understand why that money nearly wrecked my life, I need to take you back 6 years when I still believed that blood equaled loyalty and love was supposed to be unconditional. I was 30 years old at the time, and my studio apartment was just a glorified closet. Every day for 4 years, I'd wake up in that small area and ask myself why I was doing this. Why did I eat canned beans for dinner? Why I took the bus instead of driving a car? Why did I purchase clothing at thrift stores and celebrate birthdays with gas station cupcakes? $150,000. That is what freedom looked like to me. Enough money to purchase a home, to finally have a space that was all mine. Each dollar signified a decision, a sacrifice, a dream postponed, but not abandoned. Late evenings spent debugging code till my eyes burned, weekend freelancing tasks while my buddies went about their daily lives. It was all worthwhile because I had discovered her. The ideal 3-bedroom craftsman with hardwood floors and a kitchen that reflected the morning sun like liquid gold. Every Saturday I drove to my parents' house for our weekly family gathering. Karen would prepare her renowned meatloaf. Mark would whine about his back while secretly enjoying having both of his children at the table. And Chloe, my 4-year-old elder sister, would arrive with Ryan, her husband, who always appeared to be on the lookout for the latest get-rich scheme that would make him wealthy without actually working. That particular Saturday in October seemed different from the moment I stepped inside. There was energy in the air, a sensation that something significant was about to occur. Chloe and Ryan were talking in the corner like conspirators. Karen kept giving me odd looks, half enthusiasm, part calculating. Mark couldn't quite meet my gaze throughout his customary rants about the neighbor's dog. I was too caught up in my own joy to see the warning flags. I had images of the house on my phone, ready to share my happiness with those who were supposed to celebrate my accomplishment. Karen stated, "Chloe has some wonderful news," as we gathered around the dining room table. Her voice carried the tone she used when asking for a favor. When I think back to what occurred next, my stomach drops. Chloe did not just inform us about her new business idea. She gave us a complete presentation, printed charts, graphs, revenue projections, and market analysis. It was her third effort at business, and she appeared to have learned nothing from her previous 2 spectacular failures, which compelled my parents to refinance their home to pay off her debts. "I've learned from my mistakes," she continued, her eyes shining with that lethal combination of desperation and illusion that I'd seen far too many times before. "This time I have everything figured out. All I need is capital for initial development and marketing." Ryan nodded alongside her, the ideal supportive spouse playing his part to perfection. "The predictions suggest that we could treble our investment in 3 years." That's when everyone turned to look at me. Not casual glances, but intentional waiting. Eyes that left something chilly in my chest. "Why are all of you gazing at me like that?" I inquired, but a part of me already knew the answer. Chloe's voice took on the pleasant, manipulative tone she'd mastered since we were youngsters. "Well, I know you're saving for a house," and Karen said, "You have about $150,000 saved up." The room was silent save for the sound of my heartbeat beating in my ears. They had addressed my money. They had determined just how much I was worth. To them, I wasn't their daughter or sister. I was a walking ATM with a useful familial link. "Chloe, I am not going to put my house money in your business." The comments came out rougher than I intended, but I was stunned by their daring. This was not a minor favor between siblings. This represented my entire future. They were urging me to Bet on Chloe's history of stunning business failures. Chloe's face crumbled, as if I had physically hit her. But if you support me now, in 3 years I will repay you $300,000. Then you could buy an even greater house. I truly laughed. I couldn't help it. The ridiculousness of it all. The lady who had failed in business twice asked me to trust her with my life, savings based only on optimism and unrealistic forecasts. Chloe, you have already failed in business twice. Perhaps it's time to abandon these scams and find a normal job like the rest of us. That is when everything detonated. Chloe broke into tears and hurried out of the room as if we were still teens, having a dramatic quarrel. Ryan called me callous and pursued her, and my parents, who had reared me and purportedly loved me completely for 30 years, suddenly turned on me as if I were the villain in this scenario. How could you have been so harsh to your sister? Karen's voice was very cold and pierced through me like a razor. Chloe is more talented than you ever will be. You're only jealous of her success. Success? I wanted to shout. What is success? The 2 bankruptcies, the creditors phoning at all hours, and the stress had caused Mark to have panic attacks and end up in the hospital room. But Mark dealt the fatal blow. You either give Chloe the money or you are no longer a member of this family. I looked at these strangers who were wearing my parents' features and knew that I had never been their daughter. I was a bank account with a heartbeat, a resource to be called upon when necessary. I responded gently. I'm not giving her my money. Then leave our house and don't return. So I did. I walked out of that house, went back to my small apartment and changed my phone number the following day. If they wanted to kick me out of the family for money, I'd make it official. 1 year later, I purchased the house. The same stunning craftsman with hardwood flooring and early sunlight spilling through the kitchen windows. I established my home office in the spare bedroom and found what calm truly felt like. There will be no more Saturday meals spent walking on eggshells, no more hearing about Chloe's latest foolish business ambitions. No more being treated as a human ATM by those who were meant to love me. Through common connections, I learned that Chloe's business was genuinely profitable this time. She acquired a large property, traveled often with Ryan, and shared photographs of their affluent lifestyle on social media. I was truly thrilled for her, but I had no regrets about preserving my financial future. For 6 years, I lived without them. 6 tranquil, drama-free years, during which I grew in my work, learned to appreciate my own company, and gradually constructed a life that felt truly mine. I even met someone, Ethan, an amazing man I met through a professional networking organization. He lived in another state, but we made the long-distance relationship work because he represented everything my family had never been: kind, steady, and supportive. Someone who respected me for who I was rather than what I could contribute. Ethan would visit me and I would see him, and we began really discussing a future together. I was considering selling my home to relocate to his state and start over with someone who honestly cared about my happiness. Then on a typical Tuesday morning, I received an email that altered everything. It arrived to my old email account, which I seldom checked anymore. The sender's name made my stomach plummet. Karen, Vera, we urgently need to see you. It's a question of life or death. Please come home. Despite everything they had reared me, I needed to know if someone was dying, whether Mark had a heart attack or if Karen had cancer. So I responded quickly and directly, stating that I will come over this Saturday morning. I waited in my car outside their house for 10 minutes, attempting to muster bravery. The neighborhood was smaller than I recalled and shabbier somehow, but what really drew my eye were the 2 automobiles in the driveway, Chloe's brand new Porsche and Ryan's immaculate Mercedes, both of which were quite pricey. So this wasn't just about my parents, it was a family intervention. Karen answered the door, looking older and worn with new creases around her eyes that hadn't been there 6 years before. Emily, she murmured, her voice shaking from emotion. Thank you for coming. The entire family had gathered in the living room like a twisted reunion special. Mark in his usual chair, looking grim. Chloe on the couch next to Ryan, her eyes red from crying. They all looked genuinely happy to see me, but also terrified. What's going on? I inquired, keeping standing since I didn't want to get comfy. Your email claimed this was life or death. Karen instantly began crying. It's about Chloe. She's in serious trouble. I looked at my sister, who couldn't even meet my gaze. Ryan was holding her hand, as if she might float away if you let go. What kind of trouble? Mark cleared his throat. Her business failed 3 months ago. The bank took her house, and she owes money to some very dangerous people. I felt that familiar combination of vindication and genuine sadness. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. But what does this have to do with me? Chloe finally spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. I felt vindicated because I'd been right about her business prospects all along, and saddened because losing your home is truly awful, even if it's the predictable result of your own bad decisions. Ryan said, I owe $200,000 to private investors. They're not the type of people who accept "I'll pay you later" as an answer. Chloe began weeping again. They've been phoning and making threats. They know where we're staying now. They know our routines. We're afraid, Emily, especially so. I felt sorry for them. I really did, but I still didn't understand why I was sitting in this living room. That's terrible, but I still don't see what you want from me. Karen dropped the bomb. We know you bought a nice house, and we think you should sell it to help Chloe pay off these debts. I stared at her like she had a second head. Karen continued as if I hadn't spoken. You can earn another house. Chloe and Ryan could be seriously hurt if they don't pay this money back. I looked around the room at all of them, these people who had abandoned me for 6 years, who had told me I wasn't family anymore, and who had never once called to see if I was alive or dead. So, let me get this straight, I said, slowly, my voice becoming colder with each word. You kicked me out of the family 6 years ago because I refused to give Chloe money for her business, which has now failed spectacularly. She's in debt to dangerous people, and you want me to sell my house to bail her out? Family helps family, Mark said, with a straight face. You told me I wasn't family anymore, remember? You cut me off completely, and Chloe was sobbing harder now. I know we messed up before, but this is different. These people aren't going to just take us to court. They're going to hurt us. Maybe you should have thought about that before borrowing money from loan sharks. Ryan became enraged. You have no idea what kind of pressure we're under. You're right, I don't. But I noticed 2 very expensive cars in the driveway. Maybe start by selling those and paying off some of the debt. We need those cars for work. Chloe snapped. You need them more than you need to be safe from dangerous creditors. The circular logic was making my head spin. They were asking me to destroy my financial security to fix problems they had created while refusing to make any sacrifices themselves. Karen got right in my face. If you sold this house, you could pay off Chloe's debts and still have enough money for a nice apartment. I was getting really angry. Now, Karen, I worked my ass off for that house. I saved every penny for years. I lived like a monk so I could afford it. I'm not selling it to fix Chloe's mess. She's your sister. Mark said she's also a grown woman who made her own, apparently bad choices. Chloe jumped up from the couch. You're meant to help me. You're supposed to be concerned about what happens to me. Where was this family loyalty 6 years ago when you all encouraged me to leave? Karen said. What was different? You didn't want to help me keep my money before, and I don't want to help you with your financial troubles today. The room was silent. Everyone was staring at me like I was the unreasonable one, like I was the villain in their twisted family drama. I'm not doing this, I finally said. Chloe got herself into this mess, and she can get herself out. If you want to help her so badly, sell your house and give her the money. Karen gasped like I'd slapped her. This is the only house we have. We're old, Emily. We can't just start over like you can. Then I guess you understand exactly how I feel about my house. I left them all sitting there and drove home feeling lighter than I had in years. As soon as I got back to my house, I blocked Karen's email address. I was done with their drama. Forever. Things were peaceful for about a week, and Ethan called every day, supportive and understanding as always. He kept saying they can't just show up after 6 years and demand you fix their problems. You did the right thing. I was actually feeling pretty good about my decision. Sure, I felt bad that Chloe was in trouble, but that wasn't my fault or responsibility. I had my own life to worry about. Then Tuesday morning came, and everything changed in ways I never could have predicted. I was in my kitchen making coffee, looking forward to a productive workday when I heard a car door slam outside. I nearly dropped my coffee as I peeked out the window and saw Karen and Mark striding up my driveway as if they owned the place. "What are you doing here?" I asked when I opened the door. "How did you even obtain my address?" Karen seemed proud of herself, and Chloe hired a private detective. "Are you serious now?" Mark looked around my house with calculating eyes, and I could almost feel the money signs spinning in his mind. Karen pushed past me and walked right into my house, like she had every right to be there, and Mark followed her. I was so stunned by their audacity that I just stood there for a second. "Don't make yourselves comfortable," I said. "You're not staying." Karen was walking around my living room, touching things and examining everything, like she was conducting a real estate appraisal. "If you sold this house, you could easily pay off Chloe's debt and still have plenty left over for a smaller place. Perhaps a nice apartment. I already told you I'm not selling my house, but look at all the space," Mark said, spreading his arms out. "It's just you living here. You don't need all this room, and what I need is none of your business." Karen looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Chloe is terrified, Emily. These men contacted her yesterday. They know where she and Ryan are now, and they warned if they don't collect their money by the end of the month, something awful would happen. Maybe Chloe should go to the police. According to Mark, these aren't the kind of people who care about restraining orders, so the police can't help." I was becoming increasingly annoyed by the second. "That is still not my concern. You both need to go now. We won't go until you agree to help your sister," Karen replied, crossing her arms like a defiant kid. "Then I'm contacting the cops," I said, taking out my phone and dialing. Mark grabbed my arm. "Don't be foolish. Let off of me." I shook him off. "I'm calling them right now. If you don't get out of my house, they could tell I was serious." Karen started crying harder. "Fine, but this isn't over, Emily. If something happens to Chloe, it is your responsibility. And if my financial stability suffers as a result of bailing out her terrible actions, that would be on me as well. At least this way. Only the individual who caused the mess bears the penalties." Mark pointed a finger at me. "You're going to regret this. Family is meant to remain together. You did not think that 6 years ago." After they departed, I phoned the realtor I'd been talking to about selling my house and moving in with Ethan. "Hi, this is Emily. Remember when we discussed putting my property on the market? I need to sell it as quickly as possible. I'm happy to accept a 5% reduction if it helps things go along." "That's fascinating timing. I really have a buyer that is looking in your region. With that type of discount, I believe he would be quite intrigued." 3 days later, he contacted me with an offer. It was lower than I expected, but reasonable given the speedy selling. I agreed immediately. Ethan was perplexed when I informed him. "Why the rush?" First said, referring to my parents' unwelcome visit to my residence, their threats, and their reluctance to leave when requested. "I don't trust them, Ethan. I worry they'll keep bothering me, maybe even do something insane. I'd rather sell the house and put the money somewhere secure where they can't see it or use it against me." "That's probably smart. And hey, this means you can come stay with me sooner than we planned." Which made me smile for the first time in days. "Are you okay with me staying at your place while I look for a new house in your area? Are you kidding? I've been hoping you'd move here, and this just accelerates our timeline." Ethan drove out to help me pack everything up and move it to his place, and it felt good to not be dealing with the stress alone. Within a week of the closing, all of the paperwork was completed, and the house was officially sold. As we were loading the last of my boxes into the moving truck, I looked back at the house once more. I'd been truly happy there, and I'd worked incredibly hard to afford it, but I felt good about my decision to sell. I was starting a new chapter with Ethan, and my family couldn't use my house as emotional blackmail anymore. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, placing his arm around me. "Let's get out of here." We drove away together, and I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. Whatever happened with Chloe and her debt problems, it wasn't going to involve me or my money, and I was finally free of their drama for good. Living with Ethan turned out to be fantastic. His place was comfortable and welcoming, and working remotely allowed me to quickly settle into a routine. I'd been living with Ethan for about a month when my phone rang one Tuesday morning. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but it had my old hometown area code. We spent our evenings looking at houses online and planning our future together, and for the first time in months I felt truly happy and stress-free. "Was this Emily Smith?" "Yes. Who's calling?" "This is Officer Hughes from the Lincoln Police Department, and I'm calling about an incident involving your parents, Mark and Karen Smith." "What kind of incident?" "They were arrested last night for breaking and entering and destroying property, and the homeowner wants to press charges." "Is 912 Oak Drive a house you used to own?" "I sold that house a month ago." "What were my parents doing there?" "That's what we're trying to figure out." "They caused significant interior damage, destroyed furniture, broke windows, and spray painted obscenities on the walls. The new owner came home to find them in his living room, smashing his coffee table with a baseball bat." I sat hard on Ethan's couch, my legs suddenly unable to support me. "Are you serious?" "Very serious. The damage is estimated at around $50,000. Your parents claimed they thought it was still your house and that you had wronged them in some way. They said they were getting back at you for abandoning your family." I told Officer Hughes everything about Chloe's debts, about them showing up at my house uninvited, about the entire 6-year family drama that had led to this moment, and he listened patiently and took detailed notes. "So, they didn't know you sold the house?" "Obviously not. They probably went there to vandalize my property in retaliation for not giving Chloe money, but instead they destroyed some innocent person's home." After I hung up, I told Ethan what had happened, and he was just as shocked as I was. "That's insane, Emily. They could have been shot." "What if the homeowner was armed and thought they were dangerous intruders?" "I hadn't even considered that. My parents could have been killed over this stupid vendetta, this pathetic attempt at revenge." Over the next few weeks, I received regular updates from the police and mutual friends back home about what was going on with my parents' case. Karen and Mark were facing serious criminal charges, but their lawyer was able to work out a plea deal. In exchange for avoiding jail time, they admitted guilt and had to pay full restitution to the homeowner they had terrorized. My friend Catherine called me a few weeks later with the full story. "Emily, your parents had to sell their house because they couldn't afford the restitution any other way. It ended up costing close to $70,000 in total, including $50,000 for property damage, legal fees, and court costs." The irony was staggering. They had sold the house they claimed was their only asset, the one they claimed was too old to replace, and after paying everything they owed to the court and the homeowner, they gave the remaining money to Chloe for her debt problems. So they had ended up doing exactly what they demanded I do, but with their own house rather than mine. Chloe had lied about being in physical danger, but that wasn't even the best part. Catherine said her creditor problems weren't as frightening as she had made them out to be, as they were simply a legitimate investment firm threatening to sue her. There were no broken kneecaps or mysterious accidents, just regular legal action. Karen and Mark are now sharing a small apartment with Chloe and Ryan, all 4 of them, jammed into a 2-bedroom space. She had duped everyone, including our parents, into believing that her life was in danger when in fact she was only facing a routine lawsuit. From what I've heard, things aren't going well. There's a lot of fighting and tension. After a few months, I heard through the grapevine that my family was attempting to contact me through mutual friends, wanting to apologize and explain themselves in order to rebuild our relationship. Every time it was brought up, I declined. Catherine called me one more time about it, and your Karen asked me to apologize to you. She said they realized they handled everything wrong, that they made terrible mistakes, but it's too late to apologize, I told her. They spent 6 years not caring if I was alive or dead, and then they demanded I bankrupt myself for Chloe's mistakes. Then they committed actual crimes, because I refused to do what they wanted. I'm done. But their family, Emily, isn't. Family doesn't abandon you for 6 years and then show up demanding money. Family doesn't hire private investigators to stalk you. Family doesn't break into houses with baseball bats because they don't get their way. Ethan had been listening to my side of the conversation, and when I hung up, he gently squeezed my hand and said, "You okay?" "I'm perfect, actually," and I was. We'd found a house we both loved and were about to make an offer on, and I was doing exceptionally well at work, even getting a significant promotion. Most importantly, I no longer had to deal with their endless drama. He smiled at me with that look that still made my heart skip. Speaking of the house we love, I was thinking about making a bigger offer than just on the house. He got down on one knee right there in his living room and pulled out a ring box. That took my breath away. "Ethan, will you marry me? We can buy that house together and start our real life, the one we've been dreaming about." I started crying happy tears for the first time in what felt like forever. Yes, absolutely. Yes. We got engaged that day and put an offer on the house that weekend. Our offer was accepted right away, and we planned to marry next year in the backyard of our new home. Chloe created her own problems through a series of terrible business decisions and an inability to learn from her mistakes. Those moments of doubt usually last about 30 seconds, and then I remember how peaceful my life would have been without their constant manipulation and emotional terrorism. Karen and Mark decided to assist her destructive conduct instead of allowing her to face the natural consequences of her acts. They all chose to harass and threaten me instead of dealing with their own issues as adults. And when I refused to be misled, they chose to commit actual crimes. I chose to build a life with someone who loves and supports me unconditionally. I chose to protect my financial security and mental health. I chose to surround myself with people who don't try to manipulate me or treat me like a walking ATM, and I believe I chose much, much better. Ethan and I are deep into planning our wedding, talking about possibly having children someday, and dreaming about the garden we want to plant next spring. My career is thriving in ways I never imagined, and I wake up every day feeling genuinely happy and at peace, truly content with the life I've built. None of this would have been possible if I'd let my family drag me back into their mess, sacrificing my future for their dysfunction. So no, I don't regret cutting them off. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are actually the ones who place the most impossible conditions on that love. Walking away from toxic family members can be the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your future. The hardest limits we create are frequently the ones that eventually set us free, and freedom, I've discovered, is worth every sacrifice required to obtain.